What's going on, everybody? This is Christo. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Today, we're going to talk about plugins. And is it worth spending the hundreds or even thousands of dollars to use those over what comes in your own DAW? So right now, my DAW of choice is Logic Pro 10, but you can use any DAW, whether it's Pro Tools or GarageBand. It can be Cubase, Ableton, Reason, it doesn't matter. They all come with their own set of essential tools that you'll see everybody using. Mixing and mastering engineers use these as essentials, and you should be using these in your productions too, but it's like EQs and compressors and limiters and inflators, and all these things will come within your own DAW. So you don't have to worry about spending money outside. But if you do want to spend some money and you're wondering if it's worth spending the money, well, I'm gonna try to shed a little bit of light on that today for you. Without sharing my opinion, I want you guys to listen to the contrast before and after on some of these examples and determine for yourselves if it's worth spending money. So we're gonna be highlighting just a few plugins, individual plugins from a few companies, but keep in mind there's so many companies out there, so many different plugins. A few we're looking at is FabFilter, we have Sonics here, Plugin Alliance, Waves Audio, DMG Audio, and I think that's it. So those are the third-party companies. And what I did is I took three different samples here. The first is a drum bus, and I have a before and after. So the before is using only stock plugins, the after is using the aftermarket plugins. I copied the settings exactly. So I want you to see what I'm looking at. So we have a roll off up here. You'll see at 1000 Hertz, we have a 5.5 dB boost. You'll see that true here. 5.5 dB at 1000 Hertz. This is a 3.5K. Oh, that doesn't even matter. We have a 4150 at a 4 dB boost. 4 dB boost. And I keep moving these. So a tool like this doesn't necessarily get exactly on, but it gets pretty close. The dynamic EQs you can set to an exact dB range. Anyway, so this is just the EQ, and this is followed in this first example by a compressor. This is the stock compressor in Logic, and you'll see the 4:1 ratio, and we're actually going to be receiving about 5 dBs of gain reduction, and I'm contrasting that against the SSL compressor. So I'm going to let you hear what this first sample sounds like, absolutely dry. And now I'm going to let you contrast that with the stock plugins versus the aftermarket plugins. Keep in mind, you can go ahead and watch up here at the peak levels, and you'll see that they are being gain staged. So you're hearing the exact same volume. You might get some perceived loudness out of a couple of these samples, but keep in mind this is not actually louder. It might just sound louder. So let's go ahead and play through this very first example. And keep in mind this is only EQ and compression. Before, after the expensive plugins. Here we go. So there you go. There's some perceived high end in here, a little bit brighter. Is that a good thing? I don't know. It's up to you if you determine it is. The thing also that you have to keep in mind is that there's so many plugins out there, and a lot of times I'll only use a plugin for one specific job. Maybe I determined it's really good on kick drums to add some body, or so I might only use a compressor on one simple thing like that, and I won't use it in any other scenario. So every plugin's good for something different. There's no one tool does everything really well. But just keep that in mind. So we're going to move on to this next example. That first one was a drum bus. This is a full mix, actually. So it has some instruments going on and some drums. And I want you guys to hear where you have the compression first in this scenario. And the SSL and the API 2500s are emulators. This is real gear that these are emulating, and they've done a really good job. You can spend even more money on UAD products or other brands that might do it better. They might not be doing this better, but they'll charge even more money for some of their plugins. So the possibility of spending lots of money is out there. I just want you guys to hear whether you think this is a better outcome than what you're getting with the stock stuff. So here's the same compressor, attack, release, everything's the same here. And we follow that up with an EQ, so EQ second in the chain here. And again, we're using another API channel strip. So let's take a listen to this full mix. Cool. So I hope you heard the difference there. I definitely heard something going on in the bass drum or in the kick drum. It actually sounded like there was some of the body, the reverb was pulled out. The guitar was a little bit crisper, brought to life. And so anyway, this is just up to you. What do you think? This last example is a little bit more intensive. I decided to add a few more things. So we start with all plugins on this side. We have the EQ, followed by a de-esser that gets rid of the sibilance, followed by a gain plugin. These are all generally created equal, but I threw it in there just because I needed the gain stage. We have a linear phase EQ by Logic, an expander, and it's wrapped up with a adaptive limiter with the ceiling cut at 0.2, negative 0.2. So in contrast, we have these same settings reflected over here with an isotope, with DMG, with Waves 1 knob, Mag EQ, which I really like. Oh, I dragged this guy in here, the Oxford Inflator, and FabFilter Pro L. These are all great brands. I like them all. And they all do different things really well, as I said before. So something I really like with this plugin alliance is you have the ability to boost EQ up to 40,000 hertz. And even though the average human listening is about 20,000 hertz, the really cool thing is this does add some subharmonics that you can actually perceive and hear, and it really brings to life the top end of a mix. So let's go ahead and listen to this vocal before and after stock plugins and aftermarket. And I'll play this through a couple times while I open up plugins so you can see what's going on.
Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing. Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing. Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing. Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing. Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing. Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing.
So you might have noticed while I was opening plugins that there is a benefit to a lot of the aftermarket plugins. Aside from what you might hear, there is a visual aspect that's brought into the whole thing. So, for instance, with inst by DMG Audio, you're actually showing when the compressor is being triggered for the de-essing. Same thing with FabFilter L. You have a lot of
each day that passes is one step
visualizations going on, so you can see RMS and clipping, and the red indicates what's actually being cut out of the signal, which are all could be really useful to a lot of people. So everything isn't just leaning on your ears, although your ears are king. Trust your ears. Anyway, I hope this was a fairly unbiased review. I want you guys to hear the whole thing from beginning to end, and that's where I'm going to say my farewell. Go make your decisions, spend your money wisely, have lots of fun. make great music, and we'll see you guys out there. Cheers.
Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing. Each day that passes is one step closer to nothing.